Welcome back to Court TV Live. Both our Florida cases are at the lunch break. Gives us a chance to fill you in on some new developments in the doomsday cult case involving Chad Daybell and, of course, his wife, Lori Vallow Daybell. She's already been found guilty, but now, after years of waiting, this is the headline: the remains of Lori's son, JJ, have been released to his grandparents. Larry and Kay now have JJ. They've been petitioning for this for months and years. Lori Vallow Daybell, of course, was convicted in the murders of JJ and his sister Tylee. Her two children, Chad Daybell, also charged in the death. His trial scheduled for next year. JJ's parents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, released this statement. The last several years have been filled with pain and grief as we traveled this long, arduous road. We've waited and prayed for this day for so long and are immeasurably relieved that JJ will finally be laid to rest. The last several years have been very difficult for that family as well, and it isn't over yet because there's still a whole nother trial or two. Lori's going to be tried in Arizona, and Chad is going to trial in Idaho. And this week he was in court, and Chad actually wants cameras in the courtroom next year for his trial. The judge is going to make that decision in the next coming weeks. He appeared, did Chad, in front of Judge Stephen Boyce last week for a status conference via Zoom. Let's take a look at some of that.
There was a motion filed by the defense that Mr. Pryor filed on September 29th of last year, requesting that we do allow cameras in the courtroom. And the court issued a follow-up order on October 12th of last year and discussed that if these, at the time the cases were joined and they were later severed, of course, in this order, the court mentions that if the court did order a severance of the cases, I would permit the issue to be revisited and would consider that these separate cases may have separate rationale for allowing or disallowing cameras in the courtroom during trial. So without arguing the motion today, because this potentially raises the right of media intervention into the issue, I would just like to schedule a hearing, and the issue would be the determination of cameras in the courtroom for trial. At last posture, the state opposed it and the defense was in favor of it. Has that status changed on behalf of the state, or do you want to wait until the hearing to more fully discuss that, Ms. Blake?
I think I can indicate at this juncture the state will be maintaining the same position. We can, of course, address it more thoroughly at a hearing on this matter if we end up having one.
Okay. Mr. Pryor, any thoughts on cameras in the courtroom on that issue and scheduling a hearing on that?
Judge, I think it's important that the court set a hearing date on that. Without disclosing a lot of information, I have not returned or responded to the numerous requests from media to pursue a motion like that. And it's, quite frankly, not my job to represent any of the media people out there that are inundating my email and everything else with requests. But I think at this point, given the fact that this case is going to trial, and I expect the media to probably now jump all over the court's inquiry, we probably better have a hearing and have the matter addressed. Mr. Daybell has not changed his position since I filed this motion, still maintains his feeling about having a public trial, but Judge, I think at the time of the hearing, we'll make a final determination.
All right, there you go. It sounds like the defense is holding there, with a little caveat there from John Pryor, Chad Daybell's attorney. Marie Pryor still with us. Marie, what's your take on this? I get the, one of the things you wouldn't want necessarily, because these two cases were separated, you had Lori's trial, if that was broadcasted day by day, then that you could argue it could pollute a jury pool because people would be familiar with things that came up at trial. Now that that's been adjudicated, what's the harm of having cameras in there? Why do you think the state of Idaho is hesitant to allow the viewers into that courtroom?
I think, they always look at us, people from court TV, like we're distractors. And they always think that, somehow the case is going to be tried in the court of public opinion with gavel to gavel coverage like court TV provides, that it may impact the potential jurors. And that's why they don't want it. They don't want the outside interference. They don't want negative or positive press to take away from the meaning of the actual trial, which is to hold him accountable for these murders.
Yeah, I mean, but the argument doesn't make any sense, because especially if you say, all right, no cameras in any pretrial motion hearings, but once the jury is seated, either one of two things: either you're not believing your jurors are following your admonitions not to go home and watch coverage, or you do believe them. And if you don't believe them out of the gate, well, it doesn't matter if there are cameras in there, because there's 6 o'clock news reports in Boise, Idaho every day on this trial, and it just doesn't make any sense.
But jurors are people like anyone else, and I think sometimes jurors may not follow the admonitions when they get home. And both sides have their feelings on what they want with the jurors in, or the press in or the press out. I think with this, they just want to avoid a distraction all across, because having having cameras inside the courts, it does create a type of distraction. The public is allowed to know what's going on inside the court, but I can see why the prosecutors may not want all this coverage and all this distraction inside the court while the trial is going on.
Yeah. There's also some people believe the LDS factor, because you've got the prosecutors, the judge, a lot of the community there, LDS. And let's face it, these two used to be LDS, and then they went wacko, and it's you could argue it's bad publicity, and there's a sensitivity, and especially in this area of the country surrounding that. Probably a factor. Who knows? Let's talk about what we're really wanting is to know, when is this thing actually going to go to trial? John Pryor's done a very good job of pushing this and pushing this and pushing this, using his time to attend Lori's trial. But now we are getting close. Let's listen to them discussing timing of the trial, and then I'll get your input after this.
Still have a starting proposed date for evidence of April 1st, but we'll look at questionnaire process likely on the 18th of March. I just wanted to get an update from the state as to whether or not you think that is still an accurate time frame for your trial, Ms. Blake.
Your Honor, I think the 8 weeks would be sufficient for the state's anticipation of the length of this trial. I think, again, given some of the differences with this one versus the companion case, including that it is still a death penalty case, I think having that longer period of time for the trial is appropriate and would give us enough coverage if we set it for the 8 weeks, not including the jury selection.
Okay. Mr. Pryor, any thoughts on our current scheduled time frame and whether you think that's adequate?
Judge, I agree. The 8 weeks is, at a minimum, is probably the appropriate amount of time. I think Ms. Blake and Mr. Wood are well aware that, at least in this case, the defense is going to put on a defense. And I have a number of expert witnesses, which is another subject we'll need to discuss. So at least 8 weeks would be appropriate.
Very well. We'll keep the trial schedule as it sits for now then.
All right, there you go. Spring, it looks like it's going to happen. And John Pryor, he's an interesting guy. He's a great lawyer, and he's a fantastic legal mind. And the gloves are off with this dude. I mean, every hearing he's got this sort of seething aggression, which is going to, hopefully, if we have cameras in, be on full display for Chad's trial. Does Chad have a different opportunity than maybe Lori, the mom, didn't have? Do you see an opening maybe for him that she didn't have if we look forward to this trial and sort of think about a defense?
We don't know what's going to happen with him, but I can see that maybe he is going to remove himself and say that she was the mastermind behind everything and that he didn't do anything. He wasn't the one who engaged in any of these acts. And if anyone should be punished, the person has been punished already, and it's Lori Daybell. I think he might remove himself from her to show that he didn't manipulate her. It was the other way around. She manipulated him or perhaps her brother, and he may say he had nothing to do with it. Everything that happened is between Lori, the goddess, and her brother, who was her devout follower.
Yeah, well, and if they put him on the stand, he'll be on full display, and I don't think he's that compelling. I mean, one of the big things, the more you watch him and you look at him speaking, you're like, how did he have any followers, let alone this scenario? How did it ever begin? So he may help himself just by being there, and if he gets up on the stand, because it would make more sense, likely, that Lori was the ringleader. Let's get a break in here, but programming note, this Sunday's episode of Victim to Verdict, we're covering the Doomsday trial. You don't want to miss it. 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, Victim to Verdict every Sunday. Hope you tune in for that.